Okay, so this is going to be like one of those spontaneous interviews or conversations that um Masego and I have as kind of like the leaders of the group. So today, it's funny how this one came about. Masego
Yeah.
sends this random memorandum to the group saying that, oh, by the way, I think everybody should take all of their assets across every single platform that they have
And then
regardless
they
of
got
whether it shares cryptocurrencies, if you've invested in anything, whether it be drugs, whether it be food, whether it be alcohol, whether it be shares, take all of it, put it into Hedera. And for me, I was just like, okay, that's a bit of a bold move.
yeah,
So if you're going to tell me to make such a drastic decision,
we
you're
need
going
to
to have
talk
to
about it.
justify. You're going to have
Yeah.
to justify yourself. You can't just come and throw me in the deep end and expect me to jump, my
Yeah.
boy. That's not how it works. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, just to clarify, so I was initially just making this decision with my partner, Tseho. So
Mm,
I wasn't
mm.
saying everyone should take all of their assets and put it in Hedera because everybody has a different, plan and an investment journey, right? I
Yeah.
was saying Tseho and I are doing this, and we want to share that journey with everyone. We want to share how we came about that decision. We want to share the context in which we're making the decision in, because I believe that's valuable, right?
Yeah.
People like knowing how other people are investing for some reason. It's a very communal space. And that's why
Yeah.
even on easy equities, when you buy your shares, there's an option to share it with social media. I think that was
Mm,
intentionally built in. In fact, I've heard Charles Savage once talk about it, to say that when you're starting off investing, people are not taking advice from the financial managers and the news and the business news and all the analysts.
mm,
They just don't relate. And those financial analysts usually aren't giving advice for you and I, Miles, for retail
yeah.
investors who are starting off with small amounts of capital. So they're always covering
Mm,
the biggest companies, people who can afford to really have a significant holding,
mm,
and the information is relevant to them. So I thought, wouldn't it
mm,
be interesting as company culture to be open from the start? So if you notice, every
mm,
time we made an investment, Miles, even if it was just 100 Rand investment in a penny stock,
mm,
we've been sharing that journey in Strictly Investment. So this is just one of
mm,
those. Maybe we can have a
mm,
conversation about it and break it
mm.
down. I don't know. Did you have any questions? I mean, for those who don't know, yes, as Miles summed up, Tsuho and I will be selling all of our assets, right? So that's our
Mhm.
equity assets, not our crypto assets, and we'll be reallocating that capital to Hedera
Yeah.
Hashgraph, the cryptocurrency.
Okay, cool. So I think for people who are watching this for the first time, before we even get into like why we're deciding let's take everything to Hedera Hashgraph, take a minute to just describe what is Hedera Hashgraph to
Yeah.
people who've never seen this before.
Okay, so for the people watching, Hedera Hashgraph is a cryptocurrency. It's a third generation cryptocurrency, which just means that it
Mm,
came after two generations of thinking around cryptocurrency. So first was Bitcoin.
mm,
It had its own philosophy and its own way that it implements its technology. That was the first generation, was Bitcoin. It's the first time we ever saw
mm,
this technology implemented at such a scale. And then
mm,
came Ethereum, which brought programmability to blockchains. So all of a
mm,
sudden, you could write these things called smart contracts, which would
mm,
execute upon the when the conditions of that contract are met. So think of this as a lawyer, right? A lawyer will
mm,
help you come up with a contract and enforce that contract. But now instead of people enforcing these contracts for you, it's just computer code. That was
mm,
revolutionary. That allowed us to make different kinds of transactions other than just instant payment transactions, right? There's a whole
mhm,
world of what happens down that road. And now we have third generation cryptocurrencies. I think when I analyze it, third generation cryptocurrencies, although we have fourth generation now, like Solana, I believe
mm,
third generation and fourth generation are pretty much in the same league. And their value proposition is that they aim to solve what we call the blockchain trilemma. There's a concept called the
mm,
blockchain trilemma, which is a balance between speed, security, and decentralization. So the
mm,
idea is that you can only have two of the three and never all three at once, right? I think Bitcoin has a lot of security and it's very decentralized, although people argue otherwise for technical reasons we don't have to get into right now. So Bitcoin is very secure and decentralized in its nature, but it's a very slow network. So it compromises on the speed. I think
just for people, sorry, just to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Just for people who might not conceptualize what we mean by slow. Slow means a couple of hours. You know, like if we're comparing this in terms of banks, if we're comparing this in terms of normal traditional international transfer, Bitcoin
hold on, Miles. I hate to cut you off. I see SA wants to join our chat, right?
Let him join. No.
So I'm just admitting him. I don't know how long he's been waiting. There you go, SA. All right. Hey, SA, how are you doing? Still connecting to SA's audio. I think continue with your point, and then he'll just. Yeah.
So basically, what I was saying, just for those of people who might not know, so when we talk about, Bitcoin being a slow transaction site, we mean in the blockchain world, not in the bigger context of all transactions. So if we're talking about like traditional banks, Bitcoin is lightning fast, you know, but it still doesn't really meet the target of how efficient and how quickly we want it to be, which is instead of looking at hours, we want to talk about minutes, even seconds, you know. So that's just what Masego means when he says slow, not necessarily like days. It's just a few hours.
And also, you know what? It depends on the kind of transactions we're talking about, right? So if you have your bank card and you go make a purchase at Pick and Pay, I mean, the payment is pretty instant and you get confirmation of that payment instant, which is what you want. You want, if I'm going to go and buy bread, I don't want to stand there for an hour waiting for my transaction to confirm. So in that case, I think bank have found solutions. I don't know what kind of solution it is exactly to make that confirmation instant, but how you really start to see that banks are slow is, or the Visa network, right? We're talking about the Visa network here. When you send money from one bank account to another, then it could take 2 business days to get your money to the next bank account, right? That's ultimately, that's Uber more slow than Bitcoin, which can take about an hour. Also, when you're sending money overseas, that could take you a week. It could take you a week. And that's the value proposition of these new fintech companies, right? PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. The value proposition of those companies, those digital wallets, is that I can send money to somebody over on the other side of the world without the friction of the traditional banking system. So being able to send, and remember, Bitcoin is not, it's not a centralized network, right? Everything is technology. We're not talking about a company here. We're talking about pieces of code, meaning I can send you 1 million rand in theory, Mike. I mean, yes, Miles. I can send you 1 million rand in theory in about an hour all across the world. That's when we start to say that Bitcoin is a lot faster than the Visa network, right? But in the crypto world, the point is in the crypto world, it's not the fastest cryptocurrency, right? Hedera, I'll show you here. In fact, I'll share my screen just so you can compare. Give me a second to share my screen. Here we go. You can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
If we go on Hedera's website.
Why do you always insist on showing us your chats, Maso? Like, no one wants to see your affairs, bro. Come on, do better.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. So as you can see here clearly, 3rd generation public ledger, right? And we have a comparison here between Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Hedera.
Yeah.
Bitcoin can, as a network, can handle about 3 transactions per second. That's terrible, especially if you want to replace traditional payment rails like Visa. Ethereum does about 12 transactions per second. Hedera does 10,000, right? And the theory is that it's only 10,000 for now. As soon as they introduce a technical term called sharding, they'll be theoretically they have an unlimited amount of transactions per second they can achieve. So that's ridiculous. Somebody once described it as it's like moving from a calculator to a supercomputer. And that just,
Literally.
the difference of applications are now possible for a network like Hedera, right? It's not just payment applications, but applications in other fields that we might get to. Now, Bitcoin is not only slow, it's expensive. So average fee for a transaction is about $22, right? How much is that? 300 and something? 400
Bro,
Rand?
like I'm looking at that $22 and I'm just thinking, yo, my bank account, I'd
Wow.
literally lose all the money just sending it as opposed to it even getting to where it's supposed to go.
Exactly. So I mean,
Yeah.
Bitcoin's value proposition is changing from just being a payment solution to a more of a store of value, right? People are now calling it gold 2.0 because $22 is a lot. But if I can send you $2 million without any friction and nobody questioning me, then $22 is not a lot to pay
Yeah.
for that transaction to go through. It is a lot when you see what other alternatives are available. Ethereum's average transaction fees. Ethereum is notorious, especially in the NFT space, for its gas fees. They call them gas fees. So people buy NFTs. Somebody can buy an NFT worth $20 and have to pay $20 in gas fees, right? This is just an average. So you end up paying double to access the thing that you want. And it's pushed the price of NFTs up as a result of that. Hedera is a fraction of a second. And it's not only a fraction of a cent. Sorry. It's not only a fraction of a cent. This is denominated in Hedera with dollars. So it's not denominated in the cryptocurrency. What does that mean? It means even if the cryptocurrency gains value, you won't be paying more fees. That gives companies predictability. They're able to predict the costs when building on the network, and that transforms. That's useful for companies. It transforms just the amount of use cases you can now apply Hedera for. And then finally, the speed, right? Bitcoin, it says 10 to 60 minutes. So that's 10 minutes to an hour before you're sure that your transaction actually happened. Ethereum is a lot better. It's 10 to 20 seconds, but Hedera is 3 to 5 seconds with finality. This means without question that your transaction is recorded into the ledger permanently. 3 to 5 seconds. So that's a lot more useful. If you're standing in a store and you want to pay for food, 3 seconds, that's a good time to wait for your transaction to get through as you're paying. You're not going to wait an hour. So you asked me again, what is Hedera? Hedera is a third generation public ledger that theoretically solves the blockchain trilemma, which is speed, decentralization, and decentralization and security. Some people argue that Hedera is not decentralized because of its governing council, but I don't want to get into that. There are videos explaining how Hedera's decentralization works, and it only gets more decentralized with time. On the security aspect, Hedera is ABFT, which means a Byzantine fault tolerance, which is the highest level of security mathematically possible for a public network. And that's important if you're going to get into applications like, for example, the military. If you're going to build systems for the military, they can't afford to have anything less than ABFT security. That's Hedera in a nutshell, not to confuse people because we could go down a rabbit hole with these things.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I think you've
sorry to cut you off, but SA, you can unmute your mic now. Are you just listening?
Nah, yeah, what's up, guys? I just wanted to listen in. I don't really have anything to say. I just wanted to listen in.
Okay, feel free to ask questions if you do have any. Miles?
Okay, cool.
So yeah, most definitely. Please do feel free. I think you've very aptly described to anyone who's watching this exactly what Hedera is, and more importantly, its value proposition over any other. Well, maybe not any other, but most other cryptocurrencies. Let's say the major players of cryptocurrency right now. So from there, I then want to ask you in terms of like your projections, because I think, for you to be able to look at Hedera and say that for you, I look at this and I think to myself, everything I own in terms of assets, I want it here. That must mean that for you, in terms of the way that you, it's a very big decision. So for you, you must have looked at this and said, it's going to shoot for the stars. What informed that decision for you to say it's going to shoot for the stars? And more importantly, what do the stars look like?
Yeah, I mean that's a very good question. I think answering this question is a matter of answering a very fundamental question, right? What makes your investments valuable, right? In the and that's that I could answer that simply and just say demand, but what drives that demand? So Miles, you're invested in stuff right now, right? What are you invested in, by the way?
Okay, so in terms of cryptocurrencies, I've got Hbar, Bitcoin. Hbar is Hedera for those who don't know. So I've got Hbar, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Shiba Inu.
You bought it.
And I did buy, yeah, I did buy a few.
Yeah.
And Doge, but Dogecoin was quite a while back.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I don't think I caught the wave early enough, but yeah, Dogecoin.
Yeah.
And then with regards to my equities, so that would be Purple Group, Richmond, Orion Minerals, Stefanati Stocks, and yeah, those are the ones.
So let me ask this. What's your favorite investment in your portfolio? Whether stocks or equity?
So for my crypto, it would be Hbar, because so far I've seen the most amount of profits from that. From my stocks, it's definitely Purple Group. Although Richmond has also paid me quite a decent sum as well.
Yeah. So why have you invested?
I forgot to mention also Sasol, because yeah.
Okay. So why did you invest in Purple Group?
I think most importantly was like being able to look at the vision of the company and where it was supposed to go, especially in terms of just what it's done for people who are startup investors like myself, so that ease of accessibility into a world that was only really accessible to the giants and the business tycoons really solves a big world problem. And when you look at it like that and then look at how much they were trading for at the time, it tells me that they were quite significantly undervalued. But I think to even take it back further to like the initial value proposition that you spoke about with regards to Charles Savage, speaking about how like the shareability of these investments, the first thing that brought Purple Group to mind was a conversation with you, which is exactly what you said about how, in terms of how we approach investing as startup investors, you're never really going to look at the biggest analyst, unless, of course, you're shooting for the stars. But even then, you need to be able to take into consideration whether or not your context allows you to benefit from that. I think Purple Group, just in terms of the value proposition that they gave, and then the referral from you, both of which are pretty strong motivators for me to go into Purple Group.
Okay. So I heard two big reasons why you invested into Purple Group. The first reason I heard was that it solves an important problem for a lot of people, right? And we all know solving problems is a good value proposition for a business. That's the whole purpose of a business, right? So it solves a big problem for a lot of people. And then the second reason that I heard you say was that its price at the time indicated to you that it was probably quite undervalued. So it's a great company and it's undervalued. That's the same reasons why I believe Hedera will shoot to the stars, right? Because I believe it solves a big problem for a lot of people. And its price at this time, not even at the time, indicates that it's quite undervalued. And it's as simple as that. It's an important company. Cool. It solves a big problem. It's undervalued.
So this might be a bit of a stretch, and if you aren't able to answer the question, that's perfectly fine. But the second part of the question I asked you was, what do those stars look like? So to put that into context, what do you think its actual value is going to be at some point in time? What is your aim in terms of thinking of a cutoff as to this is a good time for me to maybe make a withdrawal?
Okay, that's a good question. How should I answer this? Let's look at the let's look at the market cap of the top 10 cryptocurrencies, right? Please excuse me, top 10 cryptos. I'll share my screen with you too. Share my screen. Okay, so let's go to top 10 crypto. Cryptocurrencies by market cap.
Mm.
Let me move this out the way. So I don't know how accurate this is right now. That's 30 September. So we need something a lot more.
Yeah,
current.
considering cryptocurrencies change so quickly. So
Yeah. I'll put it this way, Miles. I'll say that I believe Hedera is at least a top 10 cryptocurrency, and it's not that right now. So maybe that's a more, I guess, a more practical way of answering the question. So let's see here. Where do I check the market cap here? There's the price, there's the market cap. Oh, no. That's not the market cap. Here we go.
Market cap's there. Yeah. So
what does this say?
Right now, that is that 1,000 billion? That's 1,000 billion.
I think that's a trillion, right? Is that a
yeah,
trillion?
I'm realizing they could have just said a trillion, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah, so
so that's 1 trillion.
Yeah, I think Bitcoin is at a trillion market cap. Ethereum is at 400 billion. I think Hedera solves everything that Ethereum does, and it does it better. So when you ask me,
to search Hbar there now to see what his current market cap is.
Yeah, Hbar is it's number 34 on the list right now. We'll have a look at it now. I don't know if this is just the top 10.
I think it's top 30.
Top 30.
I saw 30 symbols.
So we're just missing it. But for perspective, I think Hedera does everything that Ethereum does, and it does it better. And I believe that in the next couple of years, it will even have a bigger community than Ethereum. Ethereum just has too many problems. I know they're implementing solutions like Ethereum 2.0, but whatever Ethereum is trying to implement as a solution, I think Hedera has already done that. And they've now allocated about 5 billion to develop the ecosystem. They also have the world's largest companies on the governing council. For those who don't know, on Hedera's governing council is companies like, let's see if it will pop up here quickly. Governing council.
I think governance is at the, there we go.
Here we go. So they have companies like Boeing, Google, IBM, Standard Bank, Shehan Bank, the biggest bank. Please excuse me. Please excuse me for that.
No problem.
Tata, LG, London School of Economics. It goes on and on, right? These are the companies on the governance council. So these are the people involved, and I directly have a stake in Hedera doing well. They have Hedera needs to do well for these companies' investments to pay off. So I feel like if people's arguments are going to be that Ethereum has a lot of developers working on it, I feel like Google has a resource of developers they can allocate to build on Hedera. I feel like IBM has that too. You know, some of the top world's universities. I think this university here, if I'm not mistaken, this is the university that the CEO of Google went to. The current CEO of Google went to this university. So we're not shy of potential for this company, but it's flying under the radar. And that's why I believe that it will skyrocket to the moon. Like I said, a good parameter or a good way to check how much I think it will be worth. I think it will at least be, sorry, I can't seem to click on what I want to here because of the Zoom call.
Just move, maybe.
Okay, so I've been able to move it.
Okay, I was going to say just move it.
Yeah, so I think it will be at least where Ethereum is today, which is 400 billion. I think it will even do more, right? But 400 billion market cap. Right now, if we look at the top 30, if we look at the 30th most popular cryptocurrency coin, that's currently only on 6 billion as a market cap. 6 billion, right? How many times does 6 billion go into 400 billion?
Too many times for my maths to do it for
Too
you.
many times. And that's the amount of times I expect Hedera to grow. I think Hedera is currently number 34.
So can I just to help me understand, because I think like a lot of people who might watch this and are currently watching this, to mostly kind of like learn how to be able to properly analyze, and I think it's going to lead into my next question. So when we're looking at market caps, and then we're saying, let's assume that Hedera right now has a market cap of 5 billion. Let's assume that. And we're saying that it could potentially then get a market cap of up to let's say 400 billion, right?
Yes.
So that in essence would be multiplying it by, I think maths is charming me, but I think about 80 in terms of so does that mean that 80 what it's worth? So does that mean if we're looking at, say now, the current trading price of Hedera being five it's a five rand a coin, right?
Yeah,
round about 5 rand a coin. Does that mean we could be potentially looking at that 5 rand timesing by 80 at some point in time?
Yes, for the price of a coin, yes. But for you, it doesn't mean that your money will multiply 80 times. It means every coin that you own will multiply by 80 times in value, right? So it's a significantly huge increase on your side. I can't do the maths right now. So that's what it means, yes.
When you say it doesn't mean that my money will just make
multiply 80 times. So the price of Hedera multiplying 80 times, right, in value, doesn't mean that the amount of money you have will also multiply by 80 times. Because you don't have one coin in Hedera. You have many coins. Each coin is now worth times more. Yes.
Okay, so it's more of an exponential growth than it is a...
Exactly.
Okay. Oh, that's crazy. Flip. I didn't even conceptualize it like that.
It's ridiculous.
You're making a pretty... it is ridiculous. You're making a pretty good case for them now, I must admit. Okay, cool. So that then leads me into my next question, because I think you gave us a very important way to be able to kind of look at how do you quantify exactly
how far it could grow.
How far it could go by using the market cap as a good reference point. But obviously there are going to be a lot of other things that somebody must, for example, infer into and read into to be able to say the market cap is going to grow by a certain amount at some point in time. So what are the things that you use to inform your knowledge of or to inform your projections as to how far you think a market cap is going to go?
Okay, so I missed that question a little bit because I was adding somebody to our chat.
No
could
problem.
you please ask it in a summary?
Is the person in?
The person is not in yet. It's Khopozo. I accepted their I accepted, but for the sake of the people watching, let's...
Okay. So the question that I was asking you is, basically, you've given us a way into looking at how we can use market caps as a reference as to how far something a crypto can potentially grow.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, what are all the other things that you use to inform your projections as to how far it can grow? Like, how do you inform your thought process into saying it's going to go from 5 billion to 400 billion?
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, market cap is one way to try value a cryptocurrency. I've heard some really smart people say that we should not use market cap as the only metric, especially in cryptocurrency.
Of course not.
Right?
Of course not, yeah.
And I guess that's what your question is alluding to. I think the rate of adoption, this is highly technical stuff, right? So I will give techniques for the everyday person to think about this, right? But on the technical side, I think the rate of adoption is another way to gauge how impactful this will be. Right? It doesn't give you a specific amount, but it tells you, it just gives you, I think with investing, you just need a general idea. You just need a general idea of how important is this compared to everything else. And that can inform your investing. So we can look at, there's tons of other metrics you can look at for confirmation, right? And people do look at tons of other metrics. I think another metric that people look at, for example, is use cases, right? How many use cases are available for the cryptocurrency coin, right? How many people are using it for different applications, right?
Let me just welcome Khopozo. Khopozo, welcome to the meeting. It's really lovely to have you here. So right now we're basically putting Masego on the spot. You know, he made a very bold move on the group saying that,
invest all my
this is
assets into Hedera.
Yeah, he said he's taking everything from everywhere and he's putting it in Hedera hash
Yeah.
swap. Now I'm playing devil's advocate and I'm going to interview him and ask him why and justify why not only are you making this decision, but why you're so confident just to even be able to share this decision with everybody around you. So now he's answering the question. He's now answering the question as to what are the different metrics that he uses or the different ways that he looks at a cryptocurrency and then tries to determine a projection as to how much it can eventually be worth. So that's what he's currently answering.
Okay, well, cut. Is it me?
Yeah.
My Wi-Fi.
So yeah, it might be. This is what I'm gonna do, right? Because there's 4 of us now, I'm gonna change it to speaker view for the purpose of this call. And then I'll keep answering the question. Suppose at any time I can hear there's a TV in the background. This will be uploaded on YouTube for other people if they want to tune in. And
Let me hotspot actually.
Sorry?
I think she's speaking to someone else. Yeah.
So can I mute her?
I think you can.
Hey, Khopotso, can you hear me? Wait, so I'll mute you for now, right?
And then just put it in the chat. I can just put something in the chat while you continue talking.
All right. I'm not sure I am able to mute her.
I think you should just like hover over her screen and then there should be a mute.
I see it, but I'm clicking on it and nothing's showing. Okay. I think it's a connection thing, right? So let's continue.
Okay. All right.
Let's continue. So to answer the question, one of the
talking about use cases.
Yes, one of the use cases is one of the metrics. So use cases is how many things is this cryptocurrency used for? That gives you an idea of the demand for the cryptocurrency, right? Because if people need the cryptocurrencies for a lot of things, a lot of important things, then there will be a demand for the cryptocurrency, meaning the value of the cryptocurrency will go up, right? Simple explanation. How many people are building on it? How many people are using? Another metric you can use is the rate of adoption. You can use macro indicators like the rate of adoption for cryptocurrency itself.
Okay.
I'll repeat that. You can use macro indicators. So these are indicators that look at the overall state of their market, right? And one of the macro indicators that you can use is the rate of adoption for cryptocurrency itself. So not just Hedera.
So basically, how many people are starting to use cryptocurrency in general? Is that
how many people are adopting cryptocurrency? And I want to give you this shocking metric, Miles.
Mm-hmm.
During 1990 to 2000, right? That's when the internet as a network was first introduced. And the rate of adoption at that time for the internet, which is one of the biggest innovation. I mean, we're talking on the internet right now. It is a network that came and changed how we do everything, right?
Literally everything.
Literally. The rate of adoption for that revolutionary technology, Miles, was about 60%, 60 something percent. That means every year, the use or adoption of the internet grew by 60 something percent. Now, eventually it leveled out, right? Leveled out. But that's huge. That's huge. It's like, imagine that as an investment for your investment every year to increase by 60%. That's huge. In 2 years, you've more than doubled your money, right? So that was the internet. Cryptocurrency today is being adopted at a rate of about 138% per year. That's faster than the internet. Cryptocurrency is being adopted faster than the internet. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, because during the time of the internet, word had to get out somehow because we didn't have the internet, right? So word had to get out. Now we do have the internet, and once a new technology gets introduced, and it's easy for everyone to adopt, like cryptocurrency, as anyone can open an account and start trading. The word spreads much quicker. So the internet serves as a foundation for this fast adoption rate of cryptocurrency. But that's ridiculous when you start thinking about it, that this thing that seems avant-garde, this crypto thing that everybody's talking about, but people not really talking about, is being adopted faster than we adopted the internet. That's something to really think about. And if you have that as a macro, they say all you need in investing, right? People can tell you all the metrics, the indicators to watch out for to determine whether this or not is a good investment or not. The key is to keep it simple, right? The best investors say all you need is a North Star. You need that one thing that points you that that's the direction. We know where we're going, right? And the North Star for me is the adoption of crypto. And then from there, you can start thinking, okay, if crypto is being adopted at a really fast rate, what's the best crypto out there? That's your next question. And for me, Hedera is that crypto. When you have an opportunity like that, I think you grab it with both arms. I guess one of the questions that you might have is, why do you have to sell all your other assets for this? I think that's the shocking part.
That's
right?
the big question. I was actually going to be my next question. So
yeah,
next time if you want to interview yourself, you can just tell me and I won't be here. But anyway, yes, that was my next question.
Yeah. So your next question is why. I think that's the big question. And I see we have 9 minutes left of this call. So it's a perfect time to get into that. Why sell all your other assets for it? Masego, that's against everything I've ever heard when it comes to investing. Diversify your risk. Don't just invest in one thing. Investing is risky. And that's all great advice, right? I think all advice has its context. For example, I think diversification is a great tool to preserve your wealth because you're protecting something, right? Why do you diversify? You want to protect what you have because you don't want to lose it. But when you're young, these are the metrics. This is what led us to making this decision. I'm young, 25, right? So I was pretty young as well, relatively. When you're young, and I think about my investment journey so far, and I also think about the fact that all the money that I'm invested right now has not been from a salary, for example. It's just been our savings. Yes, it's added up to about 20,000 Rand, right? At this point. But that when you think about how much money you will make in your life, then you might not even remember this 20K. You know, I've spent money, I've had money before in my past, 10K at a time, and I've spent it on equipment and gear that, you know, I don't even use every day. You forget about it, right? It looks like a lot of money when it's a lump sum, but it's not really a lot. You're probably gonna make a lot more money than that in your life. I think when you put those conditions together and you think about the opportunity of Hedera at this time, at its price, why wouldn't you? And if you were sure about an investment, why wouldn't you grab it with both arms? To answer your question more, why sell all your other assets? If I had 2 million Rand to invest right now, I probably wouldn't sell my other assets. I'd probably keep them and make a significant bet in Hedera. It is somewhat of a compromised move to say, I don't have a lot of capital on me right now, but the capital that I have, I'm going to bet it on this. And I'm not going to feel bad for missing out on other opportunities, for the growth Purple Group has, for the growth Orion Minerals has, or any other share that I was invested in. I'm not going to miss that, placing such a big bet on innovation and technology, on the future of the internet.
I think you gave us a very good answer. So I don't think, just because of time, I'm not going to ask any other major questions. So I think I'm just going to open it up for anyone else who might have a question that they'd like to ask me. So that basically is in Khopotso. I don't know if you guys have anything that you guys want to ask him or even me. And I'll be happy to also answer if you want to know my opinion on this, etc., etc. More than welcome to ask. Even Masego, you're also welcome to ask anyone questions.
Sure, I think we have time for one more question.
Yeah, I've got a question.
Yeah.
So let's say you're. Oh, sorry, I'm on the meeting. Sorry, let's say your investment like shoots through the roof, right, and it's worth like $1 billion or so.
Wow.
At what point?
Please.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes? No, continue.
Yeah. No, sorry. There's a lot of noise this side. Sorry.
Okay.
If you can't hear me.
No problem.
Yeah. I was saying, let's say your Hbar in the future, it's now worth
lot,
$1 billion or so or whatever. What would you suggest? Would you take it out if you want to reap economic benefits, or would you keep it there and just let it grow, or use it for like online transactions that allow for Hbar? What would you suggest?
Okay, so we can't predict how the world will look like by then, right? So I don't know what motivations I would have at that time to take my money off of the chain, off of the hash graph. I don't know. It depends. Will I be able to buy everything I want using Hedera at that day, in that time, right? If I need to purchase a house, if I need to purchase groceries, will I be able to do it in my crypto token? If I can't, those are some of the motivations of taking money out. Here's what I say about when to divest, right? Your exit strategy. Every investor, it's easy to invest. It's hard to take profit. That's harder than investing or choosing a good company, is taking your profit. I remember when our Purple Group investment more than doubled. I think mine tripled in value. And we had to sit there and think, but everybody's saying it's going to grow more, but we have what we need, so it's hard to take profit. It's very hard to take profit. I think what I use to decide to make that decision is, if you have a better opportunity for your asset, it's probably the time to take profit. That's literally one of the only times I would imagine selling my asset, is when I see a better opportunity.
Can I add
for my capital?
I think I can also add for anybody else who might be thinking, like, let's assume you don't even want to invest it in something else. I think it's also just important to ask yourself, like, what was your goal initially? Like, how much did you actually want to see yourself making from this? Because I think a lot of investors go and, like, you can use this across anything. And I think I'll use Forex as an example, because that's a field that I'm quite familiar with. So I think one of the things that tends to kill many traders is the fact that, they don't know what is enough for them. So they get greedy, and greed is the killer of everything. So it's more so of being able to understand what is enough for you and what exactly were you actually looking for from the investment, and not so much thinking how much more could it potentially grow. Because you can never actually determine that. And I think for as long as you're trying to play with the ifs and buts and the maybes and the should have, would have, could haves, you'll never.
You need to be sure.
That's the biggest problem. So I think that's my take on it. I think it's very important to have a goal in mind as to
100%.
What did I want this money to do for me, and how much did I want it to get to? And if it's gotten to that point, it might grow more, but it could also go down, and you don't know that. So I think it's important to be able to just contextualize that.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how much time we have left, but as a final point, I'll say, yes, I do want to divest at some point, because the point is to put your money in productive assets. So I eventually want assets like real estate, like funding for businesses. That's the ultimate goal for me. What we're talking about right now, that's digital assets, shares and equity. Those are paper assets. And although they're good, they assets, I think eventually I need my money moving in the economy, right? That's what really changes people's lives. That's what really makes an impact in the world, is money into the economy. That's one of the criticisms financial analysts have when government decides to release or stimulate the economy. Is usually it goes back to the investors and it stays in the equity markets, which doesn't change the realities of everyday people. So yes, eventually I want to divest, as a simple answer. And I think we're running out of time. It would have been nice to stay longer. Yeah, Miles?
I was going to say I can wrap it up if you...
Yeah, wrap it up. Go for it.
Okay, cool. So it's unfortunate. Shame, I can see your face. I think we would have also loved to have had more time to speak on this. But I think it's also just good policy to start introducing like good time limits so that we can actually get through content properly. So I think this was a recorded meeting. So if you do want to go through anything that we've spoken about, you can. But I think you've given a lot of very valuable information and pointers for anybody who's looking to start cryptocurrency investing and just investing in general. So thank you so much for your time over these past 45 minutes. And I look forward to the next time that we can ask these questions.
Sure. We'll chat about it soon. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And I hope you get to understand the kind of different decisions you might have to make as a retail investor. Sometimes you have to take a risk. depending on what stage you are in your life. With that being said, we'll see you guys next time. I think we can end the
Cheers,
meeting.
everybody.
End the meeting. Cheers.
Okay, I think you should end the meeting.